Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. So we want to get to the more than 30-year case here in North Carolina. We got some big news yesterday from it, the Leandro case. You probably heard about it if you are familiar, have been here in the area for quite some time. So I want to read this before we get to Julie K. This is on the Raleigh News and Observer's website. Just a quick couple of sentences. So for 32 years, North Carolina leaders have struggled to define what it means when the state constitution says, quote, equal opportunities shall be provided for all students. The long-running Leandro School lawsuit has seen the courts go back and forth on what the courts can do to provide a, quote, sound basic education for North Carolina's 1.5 million public school students. I wanted to read that to kind of set you up. Again, this is a complex case, and that's why we have Julie K here to break it down for us.
I'm gonna try.
Yeah, but that's sort of what it is in a nutshell.
Yeah, and so the impact of this is that millions and eventually billions, if it was to go through with all the years that it was planned, of millions of dollars are not going to some of these rural counties. Leandro has been through many iterations. It's a kind of a series of decisions. As you mentioned, this has been over 30 years that we've been talking about it, but it really started initially with 5 rural school districts suing and saying, we do not get the same resources for our students, equal resources for our students, therefore there should be some sort of supplement funding from the General Assembly. And so that supplement funding that they've been fighting for this entire time is not coming because of this ruling. There's a lot of discussion about the other impacts of what that means for the General Assembly. The core of what the decision is, and it was 4-3, so there were some dissents, I want to be clear, and they're very interesting, very long document, but very interesting that there was just a disagreement between many of these justices, and it wasn't necessarily along party lines. But basically what the Chief Justice said was the judicial branch, the courts, are not the place to have a conversation about educational policy. That should be left up to the General Assembly. And so that is kind of the impact for going forward, what this means that this has been overturned. I actually got a chance to speak with, of course, the NCAE, Association of Educators, who are very upset about this, and also former Supreme Court Justice, State Supreme Court Justice Bob Orr, who was actually on the court for some of these prior Leandro decisions. And so he kind of walked me through what this means, what happens now. Of course, the entire thing is just kind of thrown out, but he did say some of those other counties it's potential that they could put together a class action suit. Now, that wouldn't be cheap, and that wouldn't be easy, but there is a potential that that could continue in that way for them to still kind of push for funding, but at this point, it's over.
Yeah, a lot of layers, and even working in Raleigh, it depends on depending on who you talk to is sort of, and it gets into semantics. There's a different definition of the fallout and what this all means. Go ahead, Julie.
I was just going to say, there is kind of what I heard from former Justice Orr was he was saying we can't really jump to the conclusion from this. They didn't say that the General Assembly is the end-all be-all for funding, which is what a lot of lawmakers are jumping to that conclusion. And so there is disagreement even among current and former justices about kind of the implications of the case. So I do want to make that clear too. It's complicated. It's very complicated.
And we were talking about it before. And a lot of people, I'd see how people jump to that conclusion because policy does affect funding. So it is again, it's a back and forth, and this has been a decades-long conversation, concerns, debate, however you want to put it. Again, a lot to explain. Julie, you're putting the story together. We talked about how complicated it is. When can folks catch this story?
The story will air at 5 with both those interviews that I mentioned. But again, there's so much out there about this. So I do encourage people to, go to our website. We have a lot of information on there as well. And it'll be interesting to see, what happens now, of course. I do want to be clear, too, of course, Charlotte Mecklenburg has released a statement and they're saying they're not impacted, but that they, support the rural school districts that will be impacted by this. And so, it'll just be interesting to see if we get any more statements. Of course, Governor Josh Stein said he's not in support of this decision. So still seeing the fallout today, and I'm sure next week as well.
All right, Julie K., thank you. Covering all things politics, Julie K., thank you for stopping by.
Thank you.